I'm trying to think of something clever or witty or funny to say about this movie to start this video off with, but just feels so wrong given that people of my complexion are the problem. Alright, so, hey everybody, I'm back with the latest batch of reviews. There's actually a lot to cover today because I've been watching a lot of stuff that's coming on streaming lately. But I figure I should start with a movie I just saw in theaters yesterday, which is Killers of the Flower Moon, which is the newest Martin Scorsese film that is 3.5 fucking hours long. And I'll be honest, when I saw the runtime of the movie, I went in with some very strong preconceived notions because I fucking hate overly indulgent over 3-hour movies. I just don't think movies should be that long in general. Like, if you're making a TV show, if you're gonna make it that long, I have things to do. I have a life. I have a lot going on right now. I need time to do other things in my day. I can't just dedicate an entire day to a 3.5-hour movie. So I definitely walked in with a bit of chip on my shoulder in that regard, just because it was such a massive commitment of my time and energy. That being said, when I actually sat down, I watched the movie, it did become like, okay, I get it. This is, like, I'm not going to say it's completely justified. You probably could have trimmed some of the edges. You probably could have cut some stuff out. But I get why this is 3.5 hours long, and I get why they stuck with it. It is a very slow burn film. It is a movie that takes its time. It really wants you to get involved with the characters. It does feel like it justifies its time frame more than, say, Oppenheimer or The Batman, which I wasn't really a fan of either one of those. Even though I know those are hot opinions. But this one I actually liked. It's more Scorsese. It's hard not to enjoy at least some of his body of work, even though they keep trying to drag him into the stupid MCU stuff, and I don't get why. Leave the poor guy alone. He just want to make his own goddamn movies. But this movie, for those who do not know, is based on a real-life story in the 1920s when the Osage people, the Native American tribe, the Osage, I apologize for mispronouncing that, were basically banished to the land of this kind of isolated, crappy land in Arkansas. And then they got extremely lucky because it turns out the reason why the land was crappy is because it was filled with oil. So they became the richest Native American tribe in the country, pretty much overnight. And with that came a lot of trepidations because, white people, especially in America, don't really like it if non-white people get a lot of money and wealth. So a lot of this movie surrounds I'm blanking. Sorry, it's like this community that has been developed because of the oil discovery, and the king of this county, who's played by Robert De Niro, slowly kind of starts scheming and trying to find ways to take this wealth from the tribal heads, and just give it back to the white people, basically. Give it back to himself. In order to do this, he recruits his cousin, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. His name is Ernest, to seduce one of the Native American family women named Molly, who is single. And basically, like, okay, you can marry her off, and then we're going to systematically kill off the rest of the family, and then her. He does mention in the and her part. And that way they can take all the money for themselves. Now, in the process of doing this, Ernest actually does end up falling in love with Molly, and the rest of the movie is this very slow burn film that does very much play to Martin Scorsese's strengths. It does feel like it is slow burn approach like Goodfellas took, or like any one of his gangster films, really. In that it is methodical, it is character driven, and it does take its time to really get its point across. All the while, there is definitely a lot of violence. Now, one thing out the bat before I really get into the weeds of this movie, I mean, although I don't really know how much I have to say, because I'm sure smarter, more analytical people than I have already disliked this movie to death, but right off the bat, I do know this movie, despite how much time I understand that Martin Scorsese put into, like, studying the history and talking with tribal leaders, and interviewing people, like, actual Native American figures in the Native American community, try to get this as accurate as possible. There are still criticisms regarding the presentation of Native American people, even though, as far as I could not even know, and while it seems like a lot of them are played by actual Native American people, as far as I know, there is still some criticism going out from actual Native American people that says it is still bordering on stereotypes. You can't argue it revels too much in the violence of the Osage people. And you can make this argument that it does very much in the same way the complaints I've heard about movies in highlighting black suffering, in that when you focus all movies about Native American people on the most violent parts of their history, it does feel like it takes away from the more authentic experiences, the other experience that Native American people or Native American history actually has. I'm not here to say whether or not those critiques are valid. It's not my place. I don't know enough. That being said, I just want to point out that I'm aware of the criticism, but I also leave it up to you to interpret how valid or not valid that is. It's not for me to say. I'm not a member of that community, obviously, and I would never try to speak for people of that community. That is their decision to understand how this movie impacts them. Just want to get that out of the way, because I just feel like the elephant in the room is when we talk about any movie that involves an examination of a color community of some kind. Is that the right nomenclature? You know what I'm trying to say. It's Whitey doesn't need to give their opinion on that. There you go. Anyway, so on the movie itself, I don't think it's necessarily Martin Scorsese's best. I do respect the angle he took. I think he did very much want to kind of just present this side of history that a lot of people aren't really aware of. I know I didn't know anything about it going into this movie, and to find out that it was pretty accurate to what actually happened, as far as Hollywood can get, I think is a commendable feat. It's kind of like when the Watchmen TV show highlighted the Tulsa massacre back then. Many people did not know shit about that before that TV show came out. And while that show definitely took liberties in a lot of other ways, obviously, it still presented that part largely factual. And I kind of picture the same thing here, where the intention is to present a picture of history that a lot of people don't know about, and say, hey, this is an important part of our history and part we need to be aware of, and we're going to present a movie around that, so that way you're not going to forget it. And that's exactly what this movie does. It's while also following Martin Scorsese's typical formula of the rise and fall of a person in power, in this case Robert De Niro. Without going too much into spoilers or kind of breaking down how it happens, I feel like you can kind of feel like that's the vibe going into it. It's very well done. I think that's where it goes. It's Martin Scorsese. Regardless how you feel about his movies or his opinions or whatever he says or whatever dumb news junket thing is trying to get him to say or talk about, the man's still a legend, and he's made some of the greatest classics in cinema history. And he's still got it. He knows what he's doing. His cinematography is always great. The acting's always great. The storyline is very methodically paced and plotted, and you find yourself invested, and you feel the tension, the escalation throughout from beginning to end. And of a 3.5-hour movie, that is hard to maintain. But Martin Scorsese, again, he knows what he's doing. And while I'm not going to say I'm a fan of every movie he's ever done, I do recognize that, again, he's known as a master of cinema for a reason. And I'm still glad that he's given the platform to do what he wants, and I'm still glad movies like this are getting made. I hate it when people, they did the same thing with Oppenheimer, where people drag this into their stupid, let me find a way to use this against the popular thing. That whole rhetoric fucking exhausts me, and I'm just so fucking tired of it. But it's never going to go away, because people love to be contrarian and idiots. And they're going to drag perfectly good movies in there to make a dumb point that no one cares about. But anyway, I digress. I'm on the internet too much. I see too much of this crap. I recognize that up front. A lot of people watch this probably have no idea what I'm talking about, and if you don't, good. I genuinely believe that. Stay away from this crap. It is toxic. It is garbage, and none of that should take away from the movie. It is a time sink. It is a commitment. You do really have to brace yourself and clear out your plans to go see this movie. I went to go see a 12:15 matinee. I didn't get out till 4. Is it worth it though? Yes, I do believe it is. Leonardo DiCaprio does give a captivating performance. He does kind of look like a sad pit bull from most movies. He kind of plays a dunderhead for that's his character. But he every time he gets in trouble, he has a puppy. He has a sad pit bull face. There's some fun guest cameos in here, Brendan Fraser makes an appearance. I'm not gonna say who or when, and a lot of other big name actors show up every now and again. It's really fun to see, and it's good to see again a movie about what is absolutely a sensitive subject for many, many reasons, brought to the forefront, and I think it is important to make stories about this part of history and do it accurately. I know I'm very critical in the past about movies based on real life stories, real events, because it is very easy to misrepresent the facts in harmful ways for the sake of entertainment. I think Elvis is the example that's popping most in my head because that movie very, very clearly hides the fact that one, Tom Hanks's person in real life did not talk like that. They made him an other for no fucking reason, other than just to alienate him to the audience. And two, his first wife was a lot younger than they portray in the movie, and it's fucking gross. But because stories like that tend to take what people know, people tend to take facts in ways. I can't talk today. People tend to take what is presented fictionally in historical-based movies as fact. I call it the Amadeus effect, because in Amadeus, Mozart and the movie creates a rivalry between Mozart and another musician named Salieri, both of whom, Salieri was a real musician in real life, but as far as historical context, though, he never had a rivalry with Mozart. In fact, they actually collaborated a few times. There's no evidence to suggest they had a relationship of that kind, and even the director said, we made it up, it's entirely fictional. But a lot of people still, because of the movie, just kind of assume that's how it was, and it wasn't. So I do feel very strongly that if you're going to make a movie about historical events, you have a responsibility to do it correctly, do it accurately, at the very least with respect to the actual events that happened. And while I cannot speak to the representation of the Osage people, that's not for me to say, I do feel based on the historical events that happened back during that time, and the system that was created in order for white people to try to take their money or restrict how the Native American people could use their money, all of that was accurate. I looked it up. It is important to treat that with respect and with reverence, and with the understanding of the weight you have to tell that story. And I think Martin Scorsese understands that. And I think he executes it very, very well. So this is a very clean, very well-made movie. And despite the fact that, again, I really don't think any movie should be 3.5 hours long. If you're going to do that, just make it a TV show. This one was still worth the sit down and watch. And I recommend it. I do. So I think it's all I really have to say about that. Again, doing these by myself is hard because I feel like I had to vamp a lot more, but I feel like this one's actually turned out pretty clean. So yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon, great film, really enjoyed it, and I have a bunch of other movies to get to, so let's just jump right in. I will see you in the next one.